Hey everybody, it's Jim Priest with the Friday Encouragement video. I'm here to bring you encouragement for the week ahead. And the encouragement for the week starts with a story that my wife reminded me that we'd heard years ago when we heard Bob Benson speak. Bob was a funny guy. He was very soft-spoken, but he was very impactful in the way that he spoke. He was a publisher in Nashville, Tennessee, but he spent most of his weekends traveling around, speaking at churches and gatherings and retreats. And he told this story that really stuck with both my wife and me. He said he was attending a band competition that his daughter was in. And he was up in the stands and the bands. If you've ever been to these band competitions, you know how they're down on the field and they have to do things just right and weave in front of each other, make sure they hit all the notes. It's a very challenging enterprise. And so these high school bands were out there just competing, playing their hearts out, trying to do the best they could. And Bob was there cheering loudly and just really going all for it and hoping to encourage them. And he kind of looked up in the stands and he saw the judges who were all together up high, and they all had clipboards. And anytime a wrong note was sounded or somebody stepped out of formation or something like that, they would check box on their clipboard. They were looking for mistakes. And that's how you got graded. If you didn't make mistakes, you got a high score and you win the competition. But if you made a lot of mistakes or you made more than the competition did, then you were marked down and you'd go home sad. And Bob thought to himself, I think a lot of people see God like the judge up high in the stands with the clipboard. But God is more like the parent in the stands, cheering crazy, wanting the best for their kids out on the field, hoping that they win. And it really didn't matter to the parent. Did they make a mistake? Did they sound a wrong note? They still loved that kid and were cheering for him. That's the way God is. He's not up there in a cosmic clipboard checking off, looking for things that you've done wrong. And I thought, what a great analogy and a great reminder that we're told this in the first chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus is the representation of God, and Jesus was full of grace and truth. Now, it sounds like both of those are good things, but sometimes truth is hard to handle. When someone comes and tells me, for example, you really need a breath mint, you got bad breath, that hurts a little bit, but it's truth. I need to hear it. Sometimes we hear truth, it has a little sharper edge to it. Maybe it's something like, when you do this in our marriage, it really bothers me and it makes me feel devalued. Or it might be a kid that you've spoken harshly to, and they come back and they say, Dad, I know I messed up, but boy, you really yelled at me and that hurt. So God wants to give us truth, but he wants to do so in a way that's full of grace. And I think that's what we need to do as well. When we had little kids at home, we would, periodically have to discipline them. But every once in a while, I would sit down, Amanda or Spencer, and they'd done something wrong. And I said, there's going to be a consequence for this. Maybe they took something they shouldn't have taken, or they spoke back, or something like that. Every once in a while, I would say to them, there should be a punishment for this, but I'm going to give you a grace this time. A grace is something we don't really deserve, but we get it. And that's what God wants to give us. He wants to give us grace. So the word for you this week is to remember God is a God of grace. He loves you. He's the parent in the stand, cheering for you, not checking the clipboard. Hope you have a great week and that you live in grace.